Welcome to Inside Athletic Training, a podcast from the Professional Baseball Athletic Trainers Society, where Major League and Minor League athletic trainers share insight into athletic training at the highest level. This week on Inside Athletic Training, we welcome in Cody Derby, a minor league athletic trainer for the San Diego Padres. Enjoy the show. All right, Cody, welcome to Inside Athletic Training. Super happy to have you on for our 26th episode. As many of our listeners know at this point, we start each show by asking our guests to share a bit of information and their thoughts and feelings about the Professional Baseball Athletic Trainers Society, also known as PBATS, and also what the society has meant to you throughout your career.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Sam. There's been some really awesome people on this podcast ahead of me, so really honored to be a part of it right now. PBATS has really been a big part of my career, especially early on when I was an undergrad. I always, checked the website and kind of just did some things on there and tried to look for, positions or people to reach out to or how I can really get involved. So ever since early on in my career, I've always been a part of it. And, being with the Tigers, it really provided me that guidance into professional baseball and through some other people helping me get there. And, once I was in professional baseball and kind of early on in the pandemic, that's kind of when I really got involved into PBATS a little bit more. We did some things through mental health and I was able to be a part of that and got involved in that with some videos and some educational stuff during that time. And ever since then, I've been a part of having some interns through PBATS and being able to provide them mentorship and stuff. So we've stayed in touch through that. And anyone who has ever asked me about their involvement in baseball and kind of how to get involved, I always lead them in the direction of PBATS. So very thankful for what you all do and how involved everyone is in PBATS.
Yeah, it's definitely a brotherhood of sorts and a great way for anyone to get involved, whether it's, someone in high school or college. We're always a great resource for the athletic trainer. Well, Cody, you're currently in your first full season with the San Diego Padres organization. After spending time with the Tigers, with Team USA, also at Rice University. We'll get into your job and your career path in a bit. But first, like every episode, love to learn more about your background and what paths led you to where you are in your career today. So let's take it back to the beginning, when you were young, where you're from, what got you into sports growing up, and also what led you to find your passion for athletic training.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Glenwood Springs, Colorado, born and raised there, grew up small valley town in between Aspen and Vail, really cool mountain town. I was a three-sport athlete growing up. Family was very athletic. Cousin played collegiate baseball, got drafted by the Orioles. So growing up, I just always had a passion for baseball. I was always just a little bit better at baseball than other sports. So took that with me and kind of grew with it as I played through high school and ended up playing 1 year in college and really found the passion for just sports in general. But that's kind of where my passion for athletic training came as well. In high school, we were fortunate to have an athletic trainer. Shout out to Marnie Barton. She's still one of my greatest mentors and the person who really got me involved in athletic training. But I had a few injuries in high school, particularly in football, that kind of set me to the sidelines, and I still wanted to be a part of the team. So I always had a passion for what she did and how she helped me. So my interest grew in athletic training. And so eventually I kind of took it under my reins to be involved with football still. And so I was a student athletic trainer at the time, and we kind of started our own program there just through my involvement with it. And I was able to be on the sidelines during games and help during treatments and kind of just learn from her and understand what this profession actually is and how much it involves in being in the patient care. So that's kind of where it all started, and that's where my passion lies. So through high school, I knew that that's kind of what I wanted to do and the route I wanted to take. So ever since really my sophomore year of high school, I knew exactly what I wanted to do and took it and ran with it. And Marnie helped me through it all and got to college, and that's what I did. So ever since then, I have never looked back, and I've always just known that my roots started in high school, and I kind of always have known what I wanted to do. So it's been pretty awesome, and I'm very, very thankful for that experience of how kind of my passion started.
Yeah, that's good to hear. And you're one of the lucky ones who actually knew early on what they want to do with their life. So that kudos to you
Yeah.
and your passion there. So I know we've talked to a lot of our guests about education and how important that is in the field of athletic training. You graduated from Kansas State University, also got your master's from Missouri Western State University. Within the field of athletic training and your education, your time at those schools, what was it that you enjoyed most about your time in school? Was it the hands-on experience, learning in the classroom, or kind of a combination of both?
I think it's a combination of both for sure. During my time at Kansas State, I got into the program early on after I transferred after playing baseball. And once you're in the program, it's kind of like that intro year of feeling it out and really understanding like what the profession is and what the major is. And so obviously from the start, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And I was someone who was super ambitious and really wanted to take the next step of like doing everything I could to get into the program. And so, Kansas State has one of the best programs out there. And I think that my time there was a really mixture of both, really hands-on, and in the classroom setting, it really prepared me to, one, pass the BOC without any stress, and two, take that with me and move forward. So I was able to experience a lot of really good clinical settings. I worked with Kansas State football for a year and then Kansas State baseball. And so those two really provided me a lot of different experiences, really great mentors, still really close with most of them. And, they've really provided me that insight to what it takes to be a really good athletic trainer. And so I'm very thankful for that. And in the classroom, our program director at the time was Shauna Jordan and now Phil Vardaman, and two of the most powerful people that I've ever met and still really close with. And I thank them so much for what they provided me. And we'll get into that a little bit later of kind of how they helped me with my experience into professional baseball. But the relationships are really important too. And I think that all kind of just goes hand in hand with the program that you're in and the people that you're surrounded by and being able to be provided those hands-on experiences. So I think all of it really just goes into the big picture of what's important, but at the same time, being able to understand where I was going with my profession and how badly I wanted it. Everyone was there for you and they provided you everything you needed to do to be successful. So,
and you definitely got a wide range of experience, like you mentioned, working in football and baseball throughout college. I want to get into a bit about your wide range of experience in baseball. I know each stop of the way for many athletic trainers through the minor leagues is super meaningful. Talk a bit about what it's like getting into the world of professional baseball athletic training after working so hard through college to get there. The path you took, with the Tigers, USA Baseball, and Rice. How did that all, come together to land you in the place you are today with the Padres organization?
Yeah. So my journey is a little bit unique. I didn't necessarily take the PBATS route, which is what most people do nowadays. And I'm very thankful for that. And I value that a ton. But like I said, with relationships being built in undergrad, that's kind of like where it all started. So when I was at Kansas State, we had a transition of program directors. And when the new program director came in, Phil Vardaman, he came from KU and was really close with Andrew Hauser, who was with the Braves at the time and someone who is well known in baseball and my mentor still today. And so that's kind of how it all started. He understood that I had an interest in baseball and really was sought out to kind of get into professional baseball. So he reached out and said that there was an internship opportunity available at the time and asked if I would be interested in it. And so obviously I took that and ran with it and interviewed and started with the internship with the Braves. And ever since then, that's kind of how it all just really, really started. And, I made a good name for myself there and really worked hard and just showed them that this is kind of like what I want to do with my life and worked really hard. And so made a really good relationship with those guys and went on to do grad school. And so from there, like they really just helped me get back into baseball after I finished my master's degree. And so I just stayed in touch with them, like built a really good relationship with them and stayed in contact, continued to network. And so really like I wasn't searching to get back into pro ball, right away. wanted to finish my master's. It was a 2-year program, but I was fortunate enough to have my mentors kind of, put my name out there, and had a couple clubs reach out, and did a few interviews with some clubs, and met with my boss at grad school, and kind of just told him the opportunity that I had present, and took the job with the Tigers a year into grad school. And I was fortunate enough to finish my master's online, just because I met with my program director at the time and said, hey, this is my passion. This is what I've always wanted to do. This opportunity, doesn't always present itself like this. And so I really want to take advantage of it. And everyone at Missouri Western was very on board with it and very helpful with me. And so I took the Tigers position a year into grad school, finished my master's online while I was with the Tigers during my first year. So that was a bit of an experience, finishing my master's and working in my first year in pro ball. So,
Sure.
But we did it, and it was great, and obviously never looked back. And that's kind of just led me to where I am today. And it all started there, and very thankful for that experience. Was there for 4 years, and worked under Corey Trumbull and a bunch of those guys there, and very thankful for them. And Corey is obviously very heavily involved in PBATs and baseball in general. So, still very thankful for that mentorship, and, we still stay in touch today. So I think it all just kind of leads through itself, and just keeping those relationships. And, Corey was a big part in helping me get to where I am right now with the Padres, and so, I think it just comes down to the relationships that you build, and the networking, and just sometimes experiences pop up, and you got to take full advantage of it. And that's exactly what I did. So that's kind of how I got to where I am right now with the Padres.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And anyone that knows Corey Trumbull, I've known Corey for over a decade now, knows that he's incredibly passionate, but more so helpful, and he truly cares about the people he's around. So it's no surprise to hear you bring up his name from your time with the Tigers. And one thing that Corey has displayed, and you as well, is patience as an athletic trainer. I think that's kind of an underrated thing. All you guys and women are very talented, very educated, and so skilled, yet there's so few positions at the highest level in your field. So I'm wondering what your perspective is in terms of patience and experience in athletic training in professional baseball, and how you kind of navigate being present where you are, but also still striving to get to the big leagues and get to that place that you always dreamed of.
Yeah, I think that's huge, because early on in my career, when I first took the job with the Tigers, not knowing a ton about professional baseball, but knowing that, we're kind of in the same boat as players in terms of growth, right? There's different levels in the system. We're all striving to become better athletic trainers, better people. And so for me at the time, I was really just set on, what do I need to do to get to the next level? And is it going to happen that next year? Is it going to am I going to be in one spot for 1 year and move up the next year? Or am I going to be in one spot for 3 years? And so I was really set on that early on in my career. But ever since kind of getting out of professional baseball and coming back into it, it's really gave me a better perception on being present and having that patience. Because for me in particular, I think that, every level is valued, and every level is important in terms of sports medicine, and how we can be, that advocate for those athletes, and a better teammate for everyone in general. So for me, being with the Padres again, it's kind of opened up my perception on understanding that every position is valued, and no matter where you are, you need to be present and just be the best athletic trainer that you can be in that moment, and things are going to work out for you. I think that my time with the Tigers and everything like that, it was something that I'll never look back on and regret. And I'm very thankful for that opportunity. I will say my patience has definitely changed, and like I said, my perspective has changed on where I value my position, or where it's valued in the organization, and how it's valued by the athletes as well. So every position is unique in its sense, but patience in baseball is something that is big. And even during my interview with the Padres, that was brought up. How are you going to be patient in coming back into pro ball and being at this level, and being at the complex again? And for me, it was just, I just said, like, I want to be a good teammate, and I don't think it really matters where you are. It matters who you are and how you're going to be able to be an athletic trainer. So for me, at the end of the day, like, yeah, we're all about growth, and obviously I'm striving to grow too and continue to grow. And that's why I love this profession, and that's why I'm still in professional baseball again. So for me, I think, like you said, patience and experience in baseball is huge, and it's valued, and it definitely goes a long way, and it just needs to be put in that perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting to hear you compare the path of an athletic trainer to a player, because it's very similar. There's so many levels to climb. And what we've learned from talking to, for example, Mark Rogo, who's kind of the leader of your team in San Diego, you have to take it step by step, and there's no shortcuts. And that's kind of how you become the person you are as a professional. One of those unique experiences that you had, kind of different from the common path, was your time with the 15U national team for Team USA as a head athletic trainer. Can you share with the listeners a bit about that experience, how you landed that position, and also what it meant to be, meant to you to be an athletic trainer for, I guess, your home country at the WBSC World Championships?
Yeah, that experience was super awesome. That came up when I was away from the Tigers, and I joined Rice. And so during the fall of my first year there, that opportunity came up through a friend of mine who is in the NHL, and his colleague used to be with USA Baseball, and they were looking for an athletic trainer to fill the 15U national team position for that summer. And so he reached out to me and sent my resume in, and just kind of talked to a few people. And sure enough, a couple days later, I was offered the position to travel with the team. And so during the fall of last year, I spent about a good 2 or 3 weeks here in Arizona during the trials, and was taking care of all the guys there, and leading them through stretches, leading them through pregame activation, doing treatments, all that kind of stuff. And so did that here for the month of trials. And then once we selected the team, we took them to Mexico and played in the World Cup there for about 10 days. And so it was an awesome experience. We got to be around some really, really, really good young athletes and really powerful coaches, and just a really, really awesome experience to, one, represent your country, and two, work for a team that's filled with guys who are going to, sign with Power 5 schools and be drafted in the first round in a couple of years. It's just really awesome to see that and be a part of it. So ended up working out nicely, because we did end up winning the World Cup. And that was something that I've never, ever experienced in my life. And that was super cool. And so actually our rings should be here in the next couple of days. So
there you go.
I'm excited to see those. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, yeah, I know you had a great time there, and it's definitely one of those experiences that not many athletic trainers get to have. We've talked to a bunch of people who've worked for Team USA in the World Baseball Classic and just worked for their home country, and they've said there's really nothing like it, to get that opportunity. So that's super cool for you, and to be a champion, even better. So congratulations on that. Well, after you finished up your time at Rice, obviously you got back into professional baseball. I know, like we've talked about, roads are never a straight line. It's winding, and there's people that put you in touch with others and provide opportunities that way. But was it ever difficult in your mind, just thinking about getting back into pro ball athletic training, the grind that it is, or was it really something that when you were away, you always thought you'd be back?
Yeah, I think initially, kind of stepping away from professional baseball, I really wanted more autonomy, and kind of wanted the ability to see through a different lens, and provide care, through just a different opportunity in a different setting. Obviously in professional baseball, athletic trainers wear a lot of different caps, and sometimes we're tasked with a lot of things that, require what would be required of a travel administrator or travel coordinator. So, that plays a big part in what we do in our daily work. And it does play a role in affecting how much we can actually be an athletic trainer. So for me at the time, I was really heavily set on just being a really good clinician. And so, for me, having that opportunity in the collegiate setting, like I knew I was going to get that. And eventually it really worked out for me well, because I was able to take on a rehab coordinator role and was, valued that a ton. And I have a really high interest for rehab in that setting. So it was a really good opportunity for me to like just really hone in on my clinical skills and grow on those. And so for me, like I knew that professional baseball is kind of the best setting possible for an athletic trainer in terms of just really having the resources and having the availability to be around people who are just really good clinicians and high talent. And so for me, at the time, getting back into professional baseball, it was a question of like where I wanted to be, where I wanted to end up. And obviously the end goal is still, to get to the big leagues. And so for me, and the opportunity coming back to the Padres, knew a couple people and talked to a bunch of people about getting back in. And, nothing better could be said about the Padres and the people that I was able to work with and Mark and the gang. So for me, it was a no doubter. And, it only took a couple of days for me to really solidify this position here with the Padres after talking to some people and interviewing and stuff. So overall, it was a no brainer to get back in. And I'm excited for the opportunity to be back here again and continue to grow. And obviously there are struggles along the way. And there's, like you said, it's a grind. It really is. And it's definitely not for everybody, but something that was really put in my head through my 4 years with the Tigers and being out of it and not being back into it was just, you just gotta like own it and be a really good athletic trainer and just understand that it takes patience, like we talked about. And at the end of the day, you're going to get what you put out. So for me, it's being back in it and understanding that I'm surrounded by the best people that I can be.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned opportunity. That's something that I think every student in college studying athletic training is looking for. They're looking for the opportunity through whether, it's a PBATS internship or a connection through someone like yourself, but they really want to get into the game. That's what everyone strives when they're students. So taking that into perspective, I'm wondering what advice you might have for those college students who are looking to get in the game. Is it monitoring websites for internship opportunities to apply? Is it connections, going to conferences? What's the best advice you have for someone who, in your position when you were in college looking to get in the game?
Yeah, looking back to my experience in undergrad and even in high school, taking the time to get involved in PBATS, even just looking at the website, checking it out, looking at the blogs, listening to these kind of podcasts, just getting advice from anyone that you can in the game, and getting involved in NATA too. I think NATA provides a really good opportunity for students. I've been involved for quite some time now, and it started as a student. So there's a ton of good resources on there. There's opportunities to get connected through jobs and through conferences and networks and programs. So for me, like those are the really two hot spots, especially in baseball. And obviously, having the time to talk to program directors, especially for any college students out there, obviously they're there to help you and help you get past and take that next step into your profession. So even just setting up a meeting with your program director to say, hey, this is what I want to do. I really want to get into baseball. Do you know anyone? Do you know the steps I need to take? And sometimes it takes just that to know someone. And then from there, I truly value the importance of sending the emails, making that phone call. You never know where it can land you. And I think it just takes a little bit of effort on everyone's end, but it's valued when someone connects to you and really wants the opportunity to even just shadow. And that sometimes can just be like your first step into the door. But for me, like something I've always taken away is it's who that gets you there, and it's what that keeps you there. And I truly value that. And I think that's really big in baseball and this profession. And it's going to take you a long way if, one, you can get to know people in it and create those relationships and establish good rapport and be a hard worker and not leave any doubt in them to, give you a good reference and where you want to go. And from there, I think it all just kind of pans out, and depending on where you want to take your career.
Mm-hmm. And one thing we've heard from a lot of different athletic trainers, whether it's minor league or major league, is we talk so much about education, but also the practical skills and being able to put that to use. There's so many kids, I'm sure, who come out interviewing and they're so book smart, but they lack any hands-on experience, any skills to kind of work on players and even communication just among professionals. So to add on to the previous question, when the Padres are hiring interns or interviewing young professionals for a position, is there a personality trait, an educational component, even a skill set that Mark and you guys look for? Or is it something kind of like a balancing act between your experience, your hands-on work, and also your education?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because just recently, during spring training, we were hiring another position here in Arizona, and I was fortunate enough to be on that committee and be on the interview committee and the hiring committee. So very thankful for that opportunity. I think it's provided me a lot of good perspective on what we look for and kind of like what I personally might look for in that position one day to be hiring someone. So for me, kind of, it's a little bit of both, right? I think personality goes a long way, and sometimes it's hard to get that personality trait just through some interviews. But talking to people and, like I said, knowing people in baseball and knowing who they might know and whatnot, I think it just comes through talking to a bunch of people about other people. And the educational side of it, obviously, I think there's a baseline of what needs to be kind of that standard to be able to be in this position or to understand like where they want to go and how we want to get them here. But, the skill set is something that could be taught. And I think it just is a matter of where you are and the people you're surrounded by and the amount of resources that are provided to you. And, being in baseball, especially with the Padres, like that was something that I looked at too when I was on the other side of this. And they value the skill sets a ton, but they value just you being a good human in general. And I think that goes a long way because especially in this profession, there's a bunch of turnover everywhere and there's a bunch of people trying to get in this position. And so the skill sets are what they are. And obviously those are going to be built upon, but it's really hard to find somebody who's going to be personable, who's going to be someone who's going to be a good team player, want to be a leader. And it's kind of like that next man up trait, right? Like, I think that's something that's valued here is our coordinator, like something that I've talked with, Paul Porter about is something, he wants me to take his position. Like he's building me to be in his seat one day. And I truly value that. And I think that's something that's great about me being here in Arizona again is having that relationship and that mindset of you're next man up. And so that's something that I value. And that's something that we value in finding someone is how ambitious are you to be a team player and take that lead and be a good leader and, fight for that next position or fight for your teammate and encourage your others before you, pat yourself on the back kind of thing. So those are the things that really we look for and something that I've noticed in the interview process through like how Mark and Paul kind of ran it and stuff. And that was really cool experience for me to see just because at the end of the day, we value people more than we value your skill set at this point. Right. And I think that's something that's pretty valuable too, especially for new people trying to get in, right? They think that they have to like master their skills like right away and be perfect at anatomy and like take all these courses and stuff. And it's like, yeah, that's great. And obviously it's going to help you become a really good clinician. But if you can't be a good person or if you can't talk to someone or value some soft skills, then obviously you're not the right fit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And to that point, at one point or another, people like yourself or Paul or Mark, who, is in charge of everything over there, they had to start somewhere too. And they did not know every single thing about anatomy or working with players or communicating with front office members. So, you got to get in and trust that you'll learn. One thing that you've always, has struck me about you and have been inspired by is just your compassion for people. Like you mentioned, you got to be a good person. Help out where you can, be a part of the team, like you mentioned. And I'm excited to talk to you about the efforts kind of through PBATS. PBATS has always advocated for all people and inclusion in baseball and sports and athletic training. Because baseball is pretty much a sport where if you can play at a high level, they'll let you play. Like Jim Abbott, he pitched with one arm, and many others have proven they could play with disabilities or being a little different. And inclusion has always been the way of baseball. You've always been a huge advocate for inclusion, and in 2020, you were featured by Minor League Baseball as an advocate for acceptable and an advisory rep for the LGBTQ plus community. So I'm wondering if you could talk a bit about that experience in that role, representing, different groups of people and your ability just to bring people together and also to navigate a little adversity you might have faced in your professional career.
Yeah, for sure. It kind of all started in with the Tigers. I was able to be a part of a couple committees. Like you said, I did a little bit of involvement with PBATS during the pandemic, but through undergrad and having a really good advisors, like I had an awesome advisor in undergrad, Morgan Campbell. She kind of helped me navigate through some personal struggles and some things in athletic training. So, shout out to her for being that person that I could always lean on. And that's kind of how she really just gave me that confidence to really take it and go with it. But, being an advocate for people in general, at the end of the day, like being an athletic trainer, like we're advocates for our athletes every single day. And that plays a huge part in them as a person and them as being an athlete, right? I think it takes a little bit of both to really treat them as people and treat the person first. And I've kind of taken that through my involvement in what I've been a part of in Florida. And it started with the Southeast Athletic Trainers Association. I was able to be on the LGBTQ advisory committee there and was under some really awesome people who were super involved in athletic training and how we could really make the efforts to create inclusion and adversity in the profession itself. And so for me, I was the first person on board in professional baseball. So that was a really unique opportunity. And fortunately, I was able to run with that, and we started the first regional committee through ATAF, which was the Athletic Trainers Association of Florida, and I was the chairperson of that committee, and we were actually the first committee to be regionally represented through the LGBTQ community through NATA. So that was a huge step for us and for me and myself. I was very thankful for that opportunity, and it just goes to show that like I had the support from everyone at the Tigers at the time to take that role on. And obviously it was a secondary role. Obviously I was with the Tigers, but for me it just meant a lot to be, one, a representative of that committee, and two, to be someone in baseball on that committee, right? Like we see a lot of people represented in colleges and high schools and in different settings, but for me, I kind of wanted to take it and run with it of being the first in professional baseball to do that. And I think that's huge just because at the end of the day, like I said, we advocate for athletes day in and day out, but sometimes what we don't see is kind of how we can advocate for some things that are, not talked about a lot in the clubhouse or in these types of settings. And for me, I kind of want to just be a voice and be someone who can take it and run with it and try to advocate for as much as I could with our athletic trainers who, might not be able to speak for themselves or might not have that voice that they need. So for me, it's been a really awesome opportunity and was able to take that and really just develop something really unique.
Yeah, definitely inspiring work that you and all the committees have done in terms of inclusion and advocacy for everybody. We've seen so many different groups, get in athletic training, whether it's, women becoming, first head athletic trainers with teams like Sue Falson with the Dodgers and everybody getting an opportunity. That's what it's all about. So always appreciate your work there. On another note, and kind of back into your current role with the Padres, we like to talk to our guests about their day-to-day. We know each person's job is different. You and Paul and Mark and everybody over there is doing a ton of different stuff, but I'd love for you to take us through kind of a so-called normal day. I know there's not many days that are the same, never a normal day in your role. But a lot of the listeners, maybe they're going to be in your position one day. Maybe they strive to be, you in a future job. So let everyone know kind of what a normal or so-called normal day might look like for someone in your role with the Padres.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, like you said, it kind of changes, and obviously it changes kind of where you're at too within the organization. But for me here in Arizona, a normal day during the season, we operate basically like an affiliate here in Arizona, just because of the weather and the heat. So our games are played at night, and on the East Coast, they're played in the days. So for us, it kind of looks similar to an affiliate where we show up, early afternoon, and it's our time to kind of prep for the day and go through notes and go through injuries with everyone and kind of just understand like restrictions and stuff. So for me, I show up and I create a restrictions list for the day and send that out to the staff just so that we're all on board with what guys can and can't do and what they're limited to. And so everyone's on board with that. We go through our staff meeting and, guys start to trickle in and we start doing rehabs and treatments and preparing for the day. And for us, like obviously being in Arizona where it's 100 plus every single day, we really have to value the hydration part of it. So we do a lot of hydration testing with our dietitians. We make sure that we have a ton of hydration stations set up, and that's something that we take a lot of time to do just because we know it's important. So it does take a little bit of our day to do that. And And then throughout the day, we're covering fields, we're doing rehabs, we're helping out with the rehab team here. We have 2 physical therapists and a fellow here that run the rehab side of things, and it's a lot, and they require a lot of our help, and vice versa. So it's really awesome to get to work with them, and obviously with my interest in rehab, it's fun because we're able to work together and be in the same training room, or just be right across the hydro room from each other, and so we're always helping out with them and what they need, and vice versa. So throughout the day it's a little bit different, but we're doing all those things during the day, and then our games are, like I said, are at night. And so there's 2 of us here full time, and then we have an athletic training intern, and right now we have a foreign exchange student through PBS as well. So we do have the hands on deck, and like I said, we are helping out with rehab a lot during the day too. So for us, it's a bit of a cool experience because we're the first people that a lot of our guys see when they come into the organization. And for example, this week with all the new draft guys here, like we're kind of their first line of defense in terms of how our sports medicine team operates. So for us, it's really cool to get that experience and kind of show them the standards of how we operate and what it means to be a professional athlete on the medical side and how to take care of your body. So, we're dealing with a lot of guys who get sent down for injuries and rehab progressions, and taking guys through their progressions and their assignments and the rehab assignments. So it's just really cool, and we get to do a lot of different things. And for a lot of people, this is kind of their first step along the way into professional baseball. So it's a really good opportunity to get a feel for how it is. And in my experience, having some experience under my belt, it's a really cool opportunity for me to take it and run with it a little bit more and mentor the people that we have here, and just continue to grow and try to make things a little bit better here every single day.
Yeah, we definitely know that there's so much going on at the complex and throughout the affiliates. So it's a lot to keep an eye on. But, like you said, it's really interesting to hear you talk about how this is a lot of people who you're working with their first experience, and you're kind of someone that's going to make a big impact on them in their career, which is a big responsibility, but also a great honor for you to have. And you're obviously doing a great job there. Speaking of doing great jobs, we recently had Mark Rogo. He's the head athletic trainer for the Padres on the show. We know how special a guy Mark is, but we also know there's a ton of people within the Padres organization who make things go and make the world spin in the athletic training room and taking care of the players. So I want to give you some time now to recognize just the people that you get to work with every day and people that make your job easier as well within the Padres organization.
Yeah, most definitely. Like I said, coming to the Padres was a no-brainer. It didn't take a lot of time for me to establish that. And I think on everyone's end too, it was just, we had a really good conversation, and it was just something that was just felt right for everybody. So, to Mark and to Paul for allowing me to be here, and the whole major league staff, and Scott, who's someone that I value a ton, and his skill sets, and someone I want to continue to learn from. I think what they have there is super special, and they truly value the people. I get phone calls from Mark, just randomly, just checking in and seeing how I'm doing, and that means a lot to me. And I think that goes a long way, because at the end of the day, he's got a plethora of things that he deals with, and he still takes the time to call us and make sure that we're doing okay and what we need to become better. So that I value that a ton, and same goes for everyone else in the organization and who I work with, and the opportunity to work with Aaron and Taylor, who are our physical therapists, and Alan, who's our physical therapist fellow. I learn a ton from them every day, but at the same time, like, they're just genuinely good humans, and we have a really good time together here at the complex, and we keep each other sane, and we have a good time, but also we learn from each other, and it's fun, and it goes a long way when you're able to kind of put your egos to the side, and like, doesn't matter if you're a physical therapist or an athletic trainer, like, we're all in it together. And I think that's something that I truly value a ton, and they lean on me for things, and I lean on them a ton for things. So, and then obviously, like, the interns and students that we've had, like, I can't be more thankful for the intern that we have here. Michael Abunia, we call him Jersey Mike. So shout out Jersey. Honestly, the one of the best interns that I could have ever asked for. And I think he's grown a ton. He's helped me grow a ton. And that just says a lot about the organization and who we value and who we bring in to be a part of our team. And so I can't thank our sports medicine team enough for the opportunity they've given me, and kind of just how we're going to continue to provide opportunities for others who step foot here.
Yeah, you guys do an awesome job there. And clearly, just from listening to you talk the past couple of minutes, teamwork is all too important. And you guys definitely focus on that and it makes things go there. So it's great to hear. Well, Cody, thanks so much for joining the show today. It's been awesome talking with you, learning more about your career path. To wrap up today's episode, we're going to finish with a quick Q&A segment that we call Extra Bases. So I will ask you 4 quick questions and let you share some insight into some of your favorite things about athletic training and baseball. So we will kick it off at first base. What is your favorite athletic training room to work in?
Yeah. I'm gonna take a little spin on this and say that since I haven't made it to the show yet, I'm gonna say whatever Major League Baseball training room I end up in is gonna be my favorite training room.
There we go. That's a great answer, and you'll definitely get there one day, and then we'll have to revisit that and get your take on it when that time
Absolutely.
comes. I'll definitely hold you to that. Moving on to second base, you've seen a lot of stadiums, working at Rice, Team USA. So this could be anywhere, minor league, college, big leagues. What's your favorite stadium to watch a game in from the dugout?
Yeah, I think I had 2. Being with Tigers in West Michigan, that's such a good spot in Grand Rapids, and the crowd and the fans and the people and everything like that. So I would say definitely in Grand Rapids, Michigan, that stadium was awesome. Loved being there. And then the stadium in Hermosillo, Mexico, where we won the World Cup. That game and that experience, I've never been so nervous in the dugout than that. So that's something that sticks in my head every day. So I'm going to have to say that.
Yeah, very valid answer. Team USA competing for a world championship, it can't get more stressful and exciting than that. So I definitely understand that. Moving on to third base, you guys do so much traveling. You're in Arizona now, but, traveling with minor league clubs and eventually big league clubs. Do you have a favorite city to visit on the road, whether that's for, entertainment or food or just kind of liking the vibe of a certain city?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a ton of places that I've been and had the ability to go to. But for me, I think it's like I said, that one day when I make it to the big leagues, visiting Toronto. That's kind of a place on my bucket list that I really want to see and experience. So that's my city that I'm most excited for.
There we go. Yeah, it's a great city. It's just a very refreshing place, super green and bright, and obviously the friendly Canadians up there. So can't forget that. Moving on to home plate. Last question for today. We talked a lot about college students and how badly everyone wants to just work in professional baseball. We know it's on the surface is a very glamorous job, whether or not it is, that's for you guys to decide and talk about. But did you have a welcome to professional baseball moment at some point during your career, whether that was the Tigers, the Padres, or anything like that?
Yeah, I think there were. Obviously there were a couple of moments. I can't necessarily pinpoint exactly. There are probably some very humbling moments, and I can talk about that and stuff. But I think overall, just the energy and time commitment that it really takes to be in this setting. Obviously, like I talked about earlier, it's definitely not for everyone. But the people that really truly value their profession and advocate for the athletes and are going to be a part of something bigger than themselves. Like I said, this setting requires a ton of time and energy. So I think overall, that's kind of just the biggest eye-opening part of being in this setting is like, yeah, it looks like fun and games from the outside. It's like, oh, you work for professional baseball. It's awesome. Like, yeah, it very much so. It is awesome. But at the same time, what goes behind the scenes is a lot, and it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of time away from family and partners and stuff. So, but at the end of the day, this is something that I truly value. And I know this is going to be something that's going to take me through the rest of my life. So I'm in it. I'm in it for the long haul.
Yeah, it's definitely have learned over the past, half year of interviewing people in your position. The time commitment is second to none. And I think it just shows the persistence and the commitment and all the great traits that you all as athletic trainers have. It really comes out to show, in the time you spend really just caring for other people. That's what you guys do. So awesome to see there. Well, Cody, thanks so much for joining the show. Always great to talk to you. Appreciate your time, your dedication to athletic training and your help with PBATs along the way. We wish you and your staff there in Arizona and San Diego nothing but the best of luck throughout the rest of the season.
I appreciate you, Sam. Thanks so much for having me on.
And that wraps up this episode. Thank you for listening to Inside Athletic Training, a podcast from the Professional Baseball Athletic Trainers Society, a show for athletic training students, educators, and professionals who want to learn more about life as an athletic trainer in major and minor league baseball. If you've enjoyed the show, head over to pbats.com to gain access to other free resources. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, thanks again for listening.